This is not what the mouth of Sauron looks like in the book. In Tolkien's work, this creature is far scarier. It's a man. A kind of demented man who seems like he has just had his soul sucked out of it. But he is a man who comes to treat with the group. And to just get this out of the way immediately, because this might make some of you mad, I actually love the movie depiction of the Mouth of Sauron. Yes, it might be kind of comical or unrealistic and strange, but I kind of like that his eyes aren't even that important and his helmet just covers everything else except for his mouth. He is just a mouth. I like that there's black bile that comes out of his mouth, as well as the words of Sauron are almost so poisonous and terrible that it's causing his body to malfunction. I like his squat little horse that he rides on, and just he kind of has swagger. I really dislike how Aragorn beheads him now, because in the book, Aragorn beats him down in a staring contest. But all in all, I actually really like how the Mouth of Sauron is depicted in the films. But this is also strange because Peter Jackson was a horror movie director before Lord of the Rings. And I think Tolkien painted this guy as a significantly more terrifying creature in the films. And I think all this goes to show what you're really trying to capture when you're writing or creating horror elements in a story. For a number of reasons, I think this is kind of mainly because this guy is just different from a wight or a wraith. Because for wights, they are spirits who inhabit dead bodies, but for the Mouth of Sauron, he seems like he's possessed by a spirit. He is still a man with muscle and sinew and a face, but he kind of has forgotten his name. He doesn't know who he is anymore because Sauron has essentially hollowed out this man so much that he can kind of just serve as a tool for him. And it's ironic that this is the man who comes and treats with Aragorn and Gandalf and their whole company. And he serves as a very real and living reminder of what Sauron is really all about and what he's kind of planning to do to all of Middle-earth and all these people who he is trying to enslave. He only uses people. He hollows them out and makes them lose themselves so that these people can kind of just serve him and what Sauron wants. It's awful. But the paragraph that we get in the book is actually pretty interesting for what the Mouth of Sauron actually looks like. This is what the book says. There was a long silence, and from wall and gate no cry or sound was heard in answer, but Sauron had already laid his plans, and he had a mind first to play these mice cruelly before he struck to kill. So it was that even as the captains were about to turn away, the silence was broken suddenly. There came a long rolling of great drums like thunder in the mountains, and then a braying of horns that shook the very stones and stunned men's ears. And thereupon the door of the black gate was thrown open with a great clang, and out of it there came an embassy from the dark tower. At its head there rode a tall and evil shape, mounted upon a black horse, if horse it was, for it was huge and hideous, and its face was a frightful mask, more like a skull than a living head. And in the sockets of its eyes and nostrils there burned flame. The rider was robed all in black, and black was his lofty helm. Yet this was no ringwraith, but a living man, the lieutenant of the Tower of Barad-dûr he was. And his name is remembered in no tale, for he himself had forgotten it. And he said, I am the Mouth of Sauron. But it is told that he was a renegade who came out of the race of those that are named Black Númenóreans, for they established their dwelling in Middle-earth during the years of Sauron's domination. And they worshipped him, being enamored of evil knowledge. And he entered the service of the Dark Tower when it first rose again. And because of his cunning, he grew ever higher in the Lord's favor. And he learned great sorcery, and knew much of the mind of Sauron. And he was more cruel than any orc. He it was that rode now out, and with him came only a small company of black harnessed soldiery, and a single banner, black, but bearing on it in red the evil eye. Now halting a few paces before the captains of the west, he looked them up and down and laughed. Is there anyone in this rout with authority to treat with me? Now, I think to me that this is scarier than what it depicts in the movie, because this guy has lost himself. But also, he's kind of kept the worst parts of himself, too. He's advanced in Sauron's ranks because he was cunning and learned and He was good at sorcery, and he was crueler than any orc. And I think for Tolkien, he's less concerned about what things look like and much more about, he's concerned with what these terrors, what these things inflict on a person's inner being. The Nazgul are scary, yes, but the black shadow malady that they inflict is far worse than their appearance. And for the Mouth of Sauron, he might look a bit more normal than some of the other creatures in Mordor, but he's totally lost his identity. And he seems like he's a shell to me. And again, this is horrifying because out of every creature in Middle-earth that would come out of these gates to treat with Aragorn, a man was the last person I was thinking. Heck, a Balrog probably would have made more sense than a man. But a man comes out of the gates and is the Mouth of Sauron. And I think this is a warning for everyone in Gondor and everyone in Rohan and for all of us as readers. The ultimate cost of serving darkness is that you don't really just become evil, you disappear into that evil. You lose yourself. The Mouth of Sauron is terrifying because he's still human. And as a human, that scares a lot of us who are reading. And all of us go, it could have been us. He's a warning, I think, about what it means to kind of go down the road of pride and what it means to have your ambition take over your personality, where you kind of aren't that person anymore, but you completely are consumed with it. This is kind of like a wall for us where this goes, this is what happens if we have blind ambition. And this is what we could become. I think that is the scariest thing in horror movies. It's not monsters or great beasts, but it's small, subtle reflections of human psychology that show this can happen to anyone. And to me, that is far more chilling than any physical monster that Peter Jackson could have showed. Although I will say I really do love what Peter Jackson did with this. But I don't think that it's as horrifying or terrifying as Tolkien. But let me know which one you prefer in the comments, because that's kind of all I got for you today. Just wanted to talk about this horror element of Tolkien and how I think Tolkien is really painting a more bleak and terrifying depiction of the Mouth of Sauron than the movies really show. The movies tried to make this scary beast, but really the scary beast is that this is a man who's coming out to treat with Aragorn and company. And honestly, that is really terrifying. But again, that's all I got for you today. Make sure you subscribe. You can also like the video if you made it this far. You can become a member for some members only content and early access to videos. And as always, remember to look toward Numenor that was, and beyond Elvenhome that is, and to that which is beyond Elvenhome and will ever be. I'll see you in the next one.